Hello. What's up,
Hey,
everyone?
hey, I'm Jack from salesbread.com.
And I'm Jeremy from quickmail.io.
Today, we're going to talk about, well, how to pick the right channel when deciding on your outbound strategy. So there's a lot of channels. Not every prospect is on every channel. So here's
Email,
how you know what you got to do. Yeah.
email,
So
email.
no, kind of, sort of. Let's get into it. But before we do, we got to do our one-liners, Jeremy.
Let's
You want to
do it.
start this damn thing?
You start.
Okay. Listen, most B2B companies lack the time and expertise to turn cold prospects into qualified leads. At SalesBread, we bring you one lead or appointment per day using ultra-personalized LinkedIn messages and cold emails so you can fill your pipeline and grow your business and be happy and live your best life. Go
All
to
right.
salesbread.com/contact and we'll have a chat. I'll show you what's working and maybe we'll do some cool stuff together. Hit it, Jeremy.
Yeah, well worth do that. And if you need anything for cold outreach, just don't hesitate to use a Quickmail because that's one of the best platform out there. One of the no-brainer, kind of use it, very powerful and very flexible for your pipeline.
Yeah, if you like Zapier, I think you have to use Quickmail because
Ooh, I like
kudos
that.
to Jeremy. There isn't another cold email thing that integrates with Zapier as nicely and deeply. So, anyways,
And,
that's
and
our pitches.
Oh, no, I haven't finished. One last thing I want to squeeze in. And of course, if you got problems with deliverability, you have to try our latest auto warmer. It's completely free. You go ahead, you register to Quickmail, and you enter our auto warmer pool. And yeah, that should improve your deliverability in no time. Anyway,
In no
let's
time at all.
get
Okay,
it up.
we're diving in here. So first off, when it comes to picking the right channel, let's just lay them out there, put them on the table. What channels do we got? Throw out a few, Jeremy. I'll throw out a few.
Yeah, of course, we got obviously email. That's one of the big one. I mentioned as well Twitter. That's one I used recently. What about yours, Jack? Oh, LinkedIn, of
Yep.
course. Yeah.
So I'll tack on LinkedIn and I'll tack on phone. So maybe voice, maybe SMS, and a couple other socials that we can probably just group in as like other social, mainly Facebook and Instagram. We're leaving out a couple, but intentionally because you don't need to consider every single channel under the sun, depending on your list. And if you think about it in a certain way, you will know the best channels to go after. So let's start. I want to start with LinkedIn, Jeremy, for a couple of reasons that I'll get into. But not every prospect cares about LinkedIn, is active on LinkedIn, will accept your request, will reply to your message.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for saying this. There's so many people who think LinkedIn is the be-all, do-all kind of thing. So
yeah,
great. Thank you for saying that.
and it's not. So they have how many members? 500 million. But the reality is it breaks down where call it the bottom 10% of their members created a profile in 2010 and haven't touched it since, because that was a thing. So if you try to send that person an invite or a message or anything, an ad, doesn't matter. They haven't been on LinkedIn in over 10 years. You won't reach them with it, right? So you have to acknowledge that there's that kind of user, quote unquote, on LinkedIn. Now, on the other hand, there are the users that have the app installed on their smartphone, and whenever they get an invite or whenever they get a message, it pings. They have notifications set up. Those are the kind of people that would be great to target exclusively so you don't waste your time on LinkedIn. So fortunately, there are ways to know who are the heavy users that will actually accept an invite and reply to your message and who won't. And I start here because look, if you got the LinkedIn app installed on your phone, like Jeremy's holding up to the screen.
Yeah, I don't think we can see. I got like probably like, yeah, I got like 100 invites pending that I'm not willing to answer. Anyway.
There you go. So how do you know the Jeremys from the people who actually will accept the invites? And The answer you don't want to hear is you never will know for sure. However, there are some signals that indicate, oh, this person makes a lot of sense to reach out to on LinkedIn. Number one being if they are already in your first or second degree network.
Yeah.
So if they're in your first degree, they accepted you at some point, and that means that they have used LinkedIn in the past. They're likely to use it in the future. So hit them up if they're in your second degree network. It means they've said yes to enough invites to have a shared connection, which tells me that this person historically says yes to a lot of invites. So if you don't reach out like a bonehead, you can probably get this person to say yes to yourself, in which case, as soon as they accept you, by definition, 100% of those people have been active on the platform in the last 24 hours. So they are what I would consider active LinkedIn users that you should message. Does that make sense, Jeremy? It's like if they accept, then by nature, that's the right channel, right? The only new thing here is don't send invites to everybody. Look for second degree, look for first degree. And if you don't have that, I've got one more trick for you. And I have tested this. It's for people that in your third degree, but have posted within the last 30 days.
Love it.
That group has, like, we ran some tests and they actually have just about the same invite acceptance rate as someone in your second degree network. So it's almost dead equal with second degree and just posted third degree.
Love
Okay.
it.
So
what do you think of,
yeah.
I mean, when I was doing those tests, I was having problems with anyone who had less than 100 connection, because it signaled to me that they're very picky about who they
Correct.
accept.
Yep.
Especially if you see a long time as well, like they've been in the same company for 8 years and they only got like 80 connections. It's very likely that either they stopped using LinkedIn. So like Jack said, do check the number of posts, or that, they really don't care.
Correct. So I'll stand by that. If you have 100 connections, you're very, very unlikely to share a connection with myself or a client. So you probably would fail the second degree or recently posted test. And by the way, Sales Navigator shows you prospects that have posted in the last 30 days, in case you're wondering. So look, that's where I go. If your prospects are there, by all means, try LinkedIn first. If they do not match that criteria, I suggest moving on to other channels. Anything to add before we talk about other channels, Jeremy?
No, I think it's good.
Cool.
One thing you told me offline is about, getting your first degree connection phone number. I think that's an awesome tip. Maybe you want to talk about this for the next
sure.
channel.
So, okay, let's make phone the next channel here. So some people despise getting a text or a cold call. I would say most people out there, especially depends what country you're in.
True.
Some countries it's illegal. Other countries embrace it. I've got a client in Australia that crushes it with cold calling a certain vertical. Not everybody, but this particular vertical lists their cell phones on the website, and when you call it, you get this person. And when you pitch, it isn't what's the word? Uncouth. It's okay. It works if you've got the right sort of script there. So I would start with that. So number one, is your list in a country where it is legal to cold call? Okay. You check that box, you can continue. Next thing would be, do they advertise their mobile number on their website? If so, you're going to want a phone step.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, Jeremy, some people will share their cell phone to first degree connections on LinkedIn. Now, you probably want to engage with that prospect at some level with a phone step if they're sharing it to you and you could not get a response through other channels, right? Anything else that would make someone a good or bad candidate for a phone step, Jeremy?
Well, you could look at, like you mentioned, at the country indicator, because that's usually in the phone. Other than that, I love it. It's a great advice, and I'm probably not the right guy to talk about fun.
Okay. Fair enough. So I think the bottom line here is if you have to really dig for the phone number, just skip it. It's not the best platform for them. but not the best channel. So let's move on to email, the beloved channel of the podcast here.
Absolutely.
How do you know?
Unless you're a dinosaur or triceratops, chances are you're gonna have an email. It may be at yahoo.com. Then in this case, you are a dinosaur. But chances are everyone's got an email.
Yes, that is true. So my question is, how do you know that email is a good channel for someone? And I don't want the answer that says it works for everyone, right? I'm curious what you have to say here.
Well, if you want to warm up your inbox, just contact direct receiver. You will get a free reply.
That's very true.
Oh, that's mean. Don't do that. But I mean, most of the website will have, most of the business are conducted by email, especially when they're remote. They're gonna have to exchange a lot of emails. On phone nowadays, they could also use Slack and stuff like that. But I think the world still has like one basic communication tool, and that's email. Now, people who don't use email are going to be people who don't do most of their business online. That could be, bartenders or, people who very strong physical presence. Other than that, if you're in a digital world, then you're going to have to exchange, and the sort of like common factor, common denominator is definitely emails. Whether you check it a lot of times or not, I don't know. Do you have any tips for that, or what's your take on this? I'm curious.
Yeah. So number one, you're a bad candidate for email if your email cannot be verified. So if it's risky and it's not posted anywhere on the internet, you can't search for it, the directory doesn't have it, I'd probably scrap them from the channel just because you don't want to bounce. However, everybody else, I would say, let's pay attention to Jeremy, that thought on, do these people need to check their inbox for work? If you're, I don't know why, but I've never had a good campaign for franchise owners of a restaurant. I'm not, again, I don't know why, but it appears that a lot of restaurateurs aren't really checking their emails. Maybe they do, like they talk to vendors on the phone, they talk to employees on the phone or with WhatsApp or whatever. But I would say know your market. If business is done in the inbox, yeah, I would definitely go ahead and test it. There's one other thing that you may want to pay attention to, and that is you can track the number of opens that you see in your campaigns, right? So if you put open tracking on and you're mailing out to your segment and you're not getting a whole lot of opens or repeat opens, you may need to pause for a moment and just double check that you've got good data. Your deliverability is good. Use that warm up tool on quick mail. But it could just be that some verticals have worse open rates just because they're not as active in email. For everyone else, though, the channel generally makes sense because what would you say? 90% of professionals have to use it in some capacity.
That's right.
Right. Exactly. The challenge is finding it and then getting delivered and then writing that message that somebody's going to want to reply to. And if you're not sure how to do those things, start at episodes 1 and you can catch up.
But I think, Jack, you're making a great point that it could be, if you're contacting people in tech, chances are they're going to have an email, right? If you're contacting, I don't know, people at certain,
painters.
Yeah, exactly. Well, also they may need to get their leads, through, question by emails, like contact form and stuff like that. That
maybe
ends up, even a contact form ends up into your inbox. But it could be that radio is working better, or it could be that, newspaper, or like, or simple snail mail, may work better. So of course it will depend on what segment you're trying to contact. But then in this case, it's easier to figure out as to individuals, right, within that market.
Right. Absolutely. We've got one more bucket here for channels. How do you know if somebody is a good fit for, let's pick on Twitter for a moment. By the way, I don't do a whole heck of a lot of Twitter outreach. I think I've sent probably less than 100, but the ones that I have some experience in, crypto guys are crazy about Twitter. So if you're a Bitcoin influencer or publisher or something, I'm going to start with Twitter. In fact, I had somebody came, sent me a message and jumped on a call, and they were saying they wanted to go after crypto influencers. And they were like, yeah, I got, a bunch of Twitter handles for the people. How do I get their email addresses? And I flat out told them, I was like, look, I'd love to work with you, but don't do email. Don't do it. It's stupid. Don't fight it. They're on Twitter already. Go after them there. Absolutely. And that's exactly what they did. They used Twitter ads with success. So,
interesting.
Hey, what do you know? Yeah. So what do you got for Twitter?
Well, Twitter is a very, I'm not sure if it is an English word, ephemeral type of thing. Like it's very in the moment. So you could very easily check the account of someone on Twitter. If he hasn't tweeted in the last, 1 week or whatever, then that's it. It's not really a Twitter active account.
Yeah.
Because everyone will at least, even like heart, tweet, retweet, or post something. So it's very, very easy to figure out if someone is active on Twitter or not. If that person is active, this is probably one of the easiest way to jump into a conversation, like just simply reply to that, to a certain tweet. And you can also filter by topic and so on, which means you could also discover new leads in the same, same topic. That's what I would say about the
so if they're recently active, then just reply to one of their tweets and you're good to go. So Facebook deserves a little bit of conversation. What do we know there?
The Facebook thing, you have to be slightly careful because Facebook is also used more for personal friend only type of thing. So you have to check that the profile is public, that the thing they share is about a certain topic. Like, for example, if you look at my Facebook account, this is very public, but all the things I share more or less linked to business, one way or another. So it's very easy then to either follow me or contact me on that platform. And Facebook doesn't do it super well in terms of letting you know that some stranger is trying to reach out to you, but they do it with the sort of like other inbox, and you kind of get still a notification for people who still have it turned on about like someone outside of your network is trying to contact you, which surprisingly or stupidly enough give you extra visibility as well. So if someone has that turned on, this is not a bad way of reaching out to someone. Assuming you could also look at the number of friends. If they have a lot of friends, that means they're very active on this platform. Whether if they have like one or two, they're probably just only considering writing things only for their close circle. So that's the sort of thing I will pay attention to.
Yeah. And I would say, gosh, for Facebook or probably more so Instagram, if the people that you're reaching out to do two things, I would try it. So is Facebook or Instagram part of their brand? And number two, do they manage the page? Do they manage that account? And if both answers are yes, yeah, go try it. Now, before we wrap up here, Jeremy, I want to offer a lazy suggestion for outbounders who kind of want to apply a lot of this without doing most of the work here. And
okay,
if that's you, if that's you, I would look at the trends that are in your list. So instead of going one prospect at a time and deciding which is the best channel for this person, which to be honest, I don't really think is sustainable or essential. Instead, what you can do is look at the list as a whole and say, okay, here's 500 people on this list. Let me check them out on LinkedIn. Let me plug in all their companies and their contact info. Let me just look. Do I have a lot of them in my second degree already? Do some of them post? Are they active? If yes, I would start with LinkedIn. If no, move on to, let's say, phone. Go ahead and visit websites. Are they listing phone numbers for most of them? If so, put a VA on the work and say, look, I need you to grab the phone number, boom, boom. And we're going to start everyone we find on a phone step or a text step. And then ditto that for social. And I would say as a last resort, everyone who you couldn't find a lot of activity on other platforms, boom, start them with email and see how that goes. Yeah. And you can revisit it down the road. But that should get you there.
The cool thing I will add to this is you get to apply your own preference Like if you prefer, LinkedIn, well, start with this channel first, and then apply those preferences. If Twitter is your favorite channel, then start with Twitter. The other thing as well that I will consider is think about prospecting on that channel itself, right? So like Jack mentioned, you get, either Twitter ads or actual, just do research on a certain topic and then find people. You can do it this way as well. You don't have to do it necessarily the sort of like classical way for doing cold email outreach.
Yeah, and there's, well, the last thing that's worth noting is you can try all of them, right? You can have a LinkedIn email step, second email step, third email step, phone step, text step, and then Twitter step, and review which one worked best. And then you can probably restack the deck. So pick the best performing channel, begin with that.
Love it.
And then, stack it upside down. So the best to worst
Fantastic idea.
carries on. Yeah. But that's it for me. Did we do good? Do we want to show people the course stuff? Course.quickmail.io is where we put in a bunch more if you like this kind of stuff.
That's right.
Check it out. What do you got to lose?
I think we're good. We've been spending more time. We actually started saying, let's do an 8-minute episode. And, typical Jack and Jeremy.
25 minutes later.
But hold on, there is more. Anyway.
There's always more. Jeremy, thanks for a great cast, man.
Great cast, Jack. Thanks.
Cool.